Welcome. You're listening to Sports Econ 101, the show where we discuss sports topics from a business perspective. I'm your host, Edward Brown, along with my co-host, Vern Glenn of CBS affiliate KPIX TV in San Francisco, and Russell Jackman. At each commercial break, we're going to ask a sports trivia question, and today it's, of course, football, because I think the season just started, didn't it?
Yeah, you would say
if
so.
it's you, it's probably going to be a soccer question. Knowing you,
No. I don't know much about soccer, except I know it's round and it's got a bunch of things on it.
You can't use your hands.
And you can't use your hands. Yeah, it's so funny. I'm sorry. This reminds me. My son, when he was playing water polo as a freshman in high school, and I didn't really know much about water polo, and so suddenly it's like, Christian, he scored, and my wife and I are the only ones standing up cheering, right? And I'm looking at the rest of us who were cheering for our kids, and no one's cheering. I'm going, what's going on? And I hear the coach yell, Brown, how many hands in water polo? Oh, one coach, because he had taken two hands to throw it in.
Got it.
I used to think also, I go, what's the big deal? These guys, they swim, they, blah, blah. And then I realized, oh, they have to tread water the entire time. And suddenly my respect for it went way up.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, it's funny.
Now, a friend of mine who's a multi-sport athlete said that the hardest thing he ever tried was water polo.
Oh, is that right? Doing the egg
Yes.
beater, they call it, to try to get up.
Yeah, he said the leg cramps that you get in water polo are like none that you get in any other sport.
Yeah, and it's funny because I used to have to drive them at 6 a.m. in the wintertime to the pool. I'm thinking,
why would they do that? I've never understood why they make people get up so early.
Well, I think they want to compete with other sports during the summertime. So
brutal.
I can remember interviewing Tony Acevedo, the great Stanford and Olympic water polo player, and I said, "Hey, give me a sense of how the sport is received, just in regular public." He goes, "Well, one time a lady asked me, water polo, what about those poor horses?"
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Hold on, they drown. All right, stay with us. Sports Econ 101, right, Brian? Welcome back to Sports Econ 101. Edward Brown here, along with Russell Jackman and Vern Glenn. By the way, last segment was sponsored by Pacific Private Money, providing mortgage investments currently yielding over 7.5% secured by real estate. Check them out at Pacific.
Not public money. It's private money.
It's private money, exactly. When you go to the bank,
right.
Bank can't lend you the money. You go to them, and they charge higher rates, but at least you get the money.
And it's still green colored.
It's still green colored, yes. PacificPrivateMoney.com. All right, and by the way, they came out with a new fund.
But speaking of green money,
yeah.
When's the last time you actually used like actual paper money?
God, I get a lot of it. I get paid in cash sometimes.
Oh, do you really?
Oh, do you? Okay.
Yeah.
Oh,
don't tell the IRS.
Yeah, that's what I was just going to say. Of course, you're very honest and you report all your income, so we don't have to worry about that. Okay, let's start off with a couple of minor things. Albert Pujols matched May's 660 home run record, huh?
When that's something?
Yeah.
Almost 500 different pitchers. How about that?
That's
to get it done.
That's how many did Mays face, I wonder? Like
3
to 400, I guess. Because they didn't have as
no
many.
idea. But I mean, there's a reason why they call Pujols the machine. He just kind of shows up and just bam, somehow gets it done. So hey, good for him, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, fifth. That's tied for fifth all time.
Pretty amazing. And then also just a little baseball. The Mets just sold for $2.4 billion. The Mets.
A billion with a B.
With a B, yeah.
B, yeah. Well, that's
my bigger deal was
that's a wad of cash.
My bigger deal was the Giants releasing Sandoval.
Yeah.
And saying goodbye to the Panda. That's a bigger issue to me.
They said goodbye to him a few years ago to the Red Sox, and then.
To me, I think that's actually one of the great sports redemption stories of all time. How he left San Francisco at the height of his career, went to Boston, was just maybe one of the worst players in all of baseball while he was in Boston, came back to San Francisco, and instead of being booed, he was people rejoiced on him returning, and he even, pitched a couple innings.
Oh, that's right. That's right. I
You
forgot
know?
about that. Yeah.
And to me, that's one of the great sports redemption stories. They say you can't come home again, but Panda proved that wrong.
Yeah. When May.
Well, I think once the wounds healed and the hurt starts to go away, I mean, Panda will come back if he wants to in some capacity in the Giants organization. He's just too much of an ambassador for the orange and black for them to just throw him out with the rest of the trash and then just walk away. It was,
the 2012
I'm sure
World
it was
Series.
not an easy call to make, but it had to be done.
If you have 3 home runs in the 2012 series, that just cemented, and a sweet.
Tied with Pujols.
What's that?
He's tied with Pujols as the only modern player to get 3 home runs in a World Series game.
Wait a minute, you don't count Reggie Jackson?
I don't call that modern times. That's moving back to
1977 is not.
That's not modern.
It's not modern times, guys.
My goodness.
Not
What are you, 15 years old or something?
Right.
With 10.
Vern and I are looking at it going, that was like yesterday. I still remember.
Yeah, 1977. Come
Yeah.
on. That was like my freshman year of high school. Come on.
I still remember being at the bowling alley. We were catching the innings in between. You throw your ball and then you'd run up to the bar and find out what was going on in the world.
Yeah.
That was pretty amazing.
I can remember even earlier than that. Remember when World Series games weren't even in prime time?
Yeah.
Right.
They played during the day. You would have no idea what was going on, and then light bulb went out. Hey, let's put this sport in prime time, and then that's when things really kind of took off from a popularity standpoint.
I still remember 1969. I was a big Mets fan, and because when you're in Little League, whatever team that you play for, you sort of have an affiliation for them. And so I was wearing Mets uniform back then, and so I was a big Mets fan. And I still remember for lunchtime they allowed us to bring a TV in to watch during lunch, and I still remember Ron Swoboda, laying out flat to make that catch against the Orioles. And it's funny because the next year I played Little League. I was on the Orioles team, and they won the World Series. It's like that was a good.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay, before we get into football, obviously, what do you think about Rajon Rondo's brother being ejected for words with Russell Westbrook? It's like rather than 25,000 fans watching a basketball game and going, okay, well, where's that coming from? How many fans were there at the time?
Yeah, no, you think he was trying to hide behind one of the cardboard cutouts. And he said it. He said it. I didn't say it. He said it.
Right.
That was pretty ridiculous.
I mean, it was kind of a ha-ha funny story at the time, but now it's just one of those things. This bridge under the water now. I mean, that's what happens when you bring in friends and family under the bubble. And by the time this show airs, we will know who the Lakers will run up and down the floor with. It's either going to be the Clippers or it's going to be the Denver Nuggets.
I'm putting the money on the Clippers.
Which would be cool because you got LA versus LA,
And that's never happened before.
Well, Clippers they didn't seem to have good teams at the same time. Lakers were dominant. Clippers were just terrible. And then there was a short period of time when the Lakers were not so good, and Clippers were starting to go up.
I think when I look at LeBron, I see a man on a mission. I haven't seen a guy with that kind of motivation since Jordan won his 6 titles.
You know what? And I think it's partly because as people they're aging, they're realizing there's only a couple of years left. They don't know when it's going to. But it's like, hey man, this is my last chance for a big hurrah.
But I think that LeBron has more than a last chance here. I think he's aiming for another 3 titles with the way that he's playing with the Lakers. He just looks focused. He looks pissed off for the most part. He's not having a lot of fun and smiling and high-fiving guys. In fact, every time he scores, he kind of looks around at the team and says, why aren't you guys scoring the same amount that I am? That's what the question I get in his eyes.
We think about who he's playing with now compared to when he was playing in Miami and then even in Cleveland. You don't think he's got the same rapport?
I think he is much more in command. There was a certain kind of equality between him and Dwayne Wade when he was in Miami, that those two were kind of on the same level, because Wade had already won a title. But here in LA, he is just like, I am the man. Even you, Davis, need to stand back and watch what I'm doing because I'm in control here.
Yeah,
And
I think
Davis
Mr. Jackman is
learning.
right. I think, yeah. In the Star Wars vernacular, he is Yoda leading the Jedi Knights in the battle game after game after game, and he's just, I mean, he's not letting anything go. I mean, he makes
You don't mind
sure
if I
everybody
compare him
is
to the
in
evil
there.
emperor, do you? Being a non-Laker fan, I compare him more to the emperor. You know?
Oh, do you?
Yeah.
Evil force, right?
Yeah, with that.
I
Okay,
don't know
guys.
why do you think people knock LeBron James like that? I mean, I mean, I've heard so much, I guess, against him, but at the same time, I mean, you have to appreciate, you know, the way he plays, you know, the way he wins. You never read about him in any tabloids. You never see him on TMZ.
He keeps his life
He's
clean.
Family man,
Yeah.
businessman. I mean, I don't know why.
He doesn't
I don't know why
cheat on
people
the
want to
court.
knock him.
I'll tell you why, and it's right here on my shirt.
Ah.
Right here on my shirt. That's why.
Okay, guys.
That's why.
Okay.
We're going to cut to our first commercial break trivia question. Again, we're going to be talking football this whole time here. If a Pittsburgh Steeler kicked a field goal, we just picked Pittsburgh Steeler. If a Pittsburgh Steeler kicked a field goal with the ball hiked from the 50-yard line and made it, how long was the actual field goal? Right? Don't say.
If the ball is snapped to the 50 for a field goal.
Yeah.
Hey, how long
is the actual field goal?
Yeah. All right, stay with us. You're listening to Sports Econ 101. Don't touch that dial. We're going to be right back. Welcome back to Sports Econ 101. One more time. Edward Brown here along with Russell Jackman and Vern Glenn. First trivia
Easy for you to say.
That's all, folks. Okay. First trivia question was a math question, I guess. If a Pittsburgh Steeler kicked a field goal with the ball hiked from the 50-yard line and made it, how long was the actual field goal?
Be a record, wouldn't
67 yards.
Wait, how
67.
67. Very good.
67 yards.
That's right.
Yeah, 17. You always remember. Are any of you fans fan of Adam Sandler's "The Lonesome Kicker" song?
Yeah. I am unfamiliar. Excuse me.
You'll have to pull that up on YouTube. First of all, after watching Steven Gostkowski last night, you really want to see Adam Sandler's "Lonesome Kicker" because he goes through the whole. It's a song about a kicker and how crappy life is as a field goal kicker. And he said, you know, they used to put the goalposts on the line, you know, the goalposts. And he said, but people were getting hurt, so they moved the goalpost back. And who cares about the kicker? Let's just screw the kicker. We don't care about it. We don't care about the kicker, so we'll move the goalpost back.
Well, look at it now. Just kicking an extra point, they move it back.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
But Gostkowski
it's not a chip shot anymore.
He was almost a legendary GOAT, and he became a hero for kicking, you know, a 10-yard field goal last night.
All right. Okay, moving on here. So, okay, now, Russell, you have to kind of calm down and stay in your seat while I mention this, but
the Rams.
The 49er game. A little, yes, very, very frustrating. But one thing I wanted to talk about here was hitting the quarterback when he's sliding.
That sucked.
Yeah.
That sucked.
It seemed like there were a couple of calls that were.
That makes me really mad. I'm still angry about it. Those were terrible calls.
Yeah.
Even on TV, they said that the second one, where he rolled over him and was trying to brace himself from falling, they said that was an illegal hit. And even on TV, they were saying that's not a good call.
Yeah, because it should be, I think it should be a judgment call, very similar to pass interference and that sort of thing. It can't be, if you touch him at all, no matter what it is. In fact, they even do that with a punter, right? If there's like very minor incidental contact, they won't call it.
Yeah, and also when the quarterback is the initiator in the hit, and he's not sliding. He's actually, going head first into it. They can't call a unnecessary roughness on a guy who then he winds up in contact with him. That's just not fair.
Well, if he's running like that and goes head first, like a running back, then I think he's fair game. But when he rears back and slides as if he's sliding into second base, then you can't touch him. And it's as a defender, you got your momentum going in a certain way, and not really knowing exactly when the slide is going to occur, and then it happens. It's a tough call. I mean,
dude,
it really
in
is.
today's rules, Steve Young would have 1,000 yards per season rushing. Yeah. He would have been untouchable, and he would have been able to run. And I think the 49ers were in gun-shy territory. They were afraid to hit Murray at all at any point in time. And that's that right after those two calls, he had that 25-yard scramble for a touchdown. I don't think that's a coincidence.
Yeah, and then you're going to see at some point a kind of a fake slide or some, where they kind of hold up and then they're just going to take off. And that's going to really upset the defense. But, like you said, you'll have another run, for 50, 60 yards by a quarterback because of that.
That being said, the 49ers also, did not put up much of a pass defense. I mean, 150 yards over to Morris, just having Moore having just a legendary game against the 49ers. No, they didn't. I mean,
you mean DeAndre?
Hopkins. Sorry, DeAndre Hopkins.
And then man, I thought he was going to be out for quite a while with that ankle.
Yeah, obviously his ankle was fine, and the 49ers didn't prepare for that. And it was really a two-man game. The Niners were beaten by two guys basically all day. I mean, combine the yardage
is
between.
Garoppolo your man still? He's a pretty boy, but I
don't necessarily blame Garoppolo for that. He had no wide receivers to throw to. Bourne was the only one who even should show up and get a paycheck this week. The other Niner receivers should not show up at the headquarters and get a paycheck. They just shouldn't.
Did you notice that there were a couple of receivers? They even went back and replayed, and they said, so-and-so was open. And so he's not Montana. Montana was very good at being able to pick off and go, okay, first receiver, no, second, third, fourth. Now a lot of it obviously does have to do with the front line, but you got to learn how to run. You got to learn how to throw the ball away.
He's run shy now after that ACL tear. He doesn't want. He's very now set in the pocket, and he doesn't go anywhere. But you've got to have guys that can get free offensively, and a guy like Dante Pettis, who has been literally just handed the job at wide receiver, though he's done nothing to do it. He has had the perfect opportunity to turn around his reputation as a gold breaker and actually step up and do something. He did nothing. Not a single reception.
Okay, tell us how you really
as
feel.
the only one of the three that were actually at that game.
Yeah.
If I could just kind of just jump in. First of all, Edward, everybody talks about how great Joe Montana was, but nobody remembers the interceptions that Joe Montana actually threw. And he did throw quite a lot of them. That said, the Niners, let's just face it, the Niners were flat. They weren't in sync, and they just didn't have it. They've never played Arizona very well. Arizona rightfully probably should have won both games last year.
Or at least
they
could
have the blueprint to throw at the 49ers. Throw a mobile quarterback at them, let him run around, create off the dribble, and the Niners can't recover. It happened 7 months ago, and it happened on week 1.
Correct.
That said, 49ers are going to be okay. I mean, they'll figure it out. I mean, they weren't going to be any more than like 12-4 anyway. So what hurts is that it was a division game, and that they're going to see him again in December. But they don't have time to sit back and go, gosh darn it, geez, we lost.
Oh no.
They got a road game against the New York Jets. They got to spend a week in West Virginia and then go back to New Jersey and play the New York Giants. I mean, they got to get up and go. You got
Is
to
West
split this season up into 4 halves, and this half they're 0-1, but they have a chance to be 3-1 at the end of the first half of the season.
And West Virginia, is that where they're going to practice for the week?
Yeah, they're going to be at the Greenbrier Resort in West Virginia. It's not too terribly far away from New Jersey, where they have to go back and play. So it's all set up. They're going to train there. It's just that they just didn't see it worth coming 3,000 miles back and then turn around and have to leave 4 days later and go back to the same place.
Especially with the risk of traveling. And now the risk of traveling, is my.
Well, that's what I was going to ask is before COVID, let's say last year, would they still, if they had that kind of.
They did that last year, too.
They've done it before.
Smart.
It's not unprecedented, Edward. They've done it before.
Okay. No, that's
but I think the word.
And so have the Raiders.
I think the word is out, though, that, Salah may be a defensive genius, but if you throw a mobile quarterback against him, he doesn't have a game plan to stop those.
That's because a mobile quarterback that can run is unpredictable. I mean, when they played at the Ravens, it was the same thing. I mean, here's a guy that can make all the throws, but then when things break down, he becomes a threat as a running quarterback. It's like an extra weapon that you have.
Boy, if I were a linebacker, I'd hate that.
Sure, of course you would.
That must be so frustrating, especially in the front four. Probably maybe more frustrating for them.
Hey, what do you guys think? Week 1, I thought, overall, I was expecting, sloppy tackling, a lot of penalties, stuff like that. But I thought
good.
Week 1 was relatively clean, I thought some of that tackling was pretty brutal. I mean, I came away impressed by that.
We're gonna.
The performance on the field was good, but I thought the refs sucked.
Yeah. I mean, well, of course.
Well, you can say that every week.
Hey,
I will.
Let's you know what? Let's tackle this issue because I thought it was very interesting to think about how football has been different than the NBA and baseball. But let's cut to another break here. Second trivia question on football. The first Super Bowl occurred on January 15th, 1967, pitting the Green Bay Packers against the Kansas City Chiefs. Which NFL team was the first to lose 3 Super Bowls? That's our trivia question. Which?
First team to lose 3.
I mean, it's funny. I didn't even have to say when the first Super Bowl was because that's kind of irrelevant for this question. But which NFL team was the first to lose 3 Super Bowls? And the hint is it was not the Detroit Lions. Why?
No, I think.
Thank you.
Never been in the Super Bowl.
They're the first ones to go 0-16.
Yeah, that's true. Well, yeah, that's right. Because with Tampa Bay, when they first came in, they didn't have 16 games.
Yeah,
right?
0-14. Correct.
All right. Stay with us. You're listening to Sports Econ 101. We're going to be right back. Welcome back to Sports Econ 101. We're having too much fun here. Edward Brown here, along with Vern Glenn and Russell Jackman.
Say we're having just about the requisite amount of fun. Just about.
Yeah, just about, yeah. Okay, I'll just shorten the question. Which NFL team was the first to lose 3 Super Bowls?
Mr. Jackman?
And Tarkington and the Vikings.
Fred Tarkington, yeah.
I don't know what he lost first, the Super Bowls or his hairline, one of the two.
Okay, so he lost against the Chiefs.
Shots fired.
Lost against the Dolphins.
I'm not a fan of Fran.
And lost against the Raiders, right? That was the first time that.
Correct.
Yeah, in that order.
Yeah.
Oh, not bad. Okay, so I was thinking about this.
But he did get the job on That's Incredible, so he sort of made up for it.
That's true. You know what? He's a very wealthy man, a very, very smart businessman. Like him and Roger Staubach. Staubach.
Do you remember him on the TV show That's Incredible?
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah.
With Kathy Lee Crosby.
I'm friends with his youngest brother, Chip Tarkington.
Oh, wow.
Who when I left my first TV job for a larger market, Chip Tarkington came in for me.
Oh, okay. It's funny. Yeah. He was one of my favorite quarterbacks growing up because he was the first main quarterback to scramble, and it was amazing.
Sure.
Watch old films. It's amazing how great he was at scrambling. Okay, so watching Week 1 on TV, it was amazing how it actually felt, because of the background noise, and they don't show the fans too often, how it really seemed like nothing had really changed. But like baseball, you could tell You know, because
baseball's slower, so you have less time. You know, you're less focused in on the raw action because there's more things to look around in.
But also the fact that baseball didn't start on time, and the NBA the same thing. They had a break, so it just doesn't seem the same. But football, it almost seems like there's been no change except for just seeing some people with masks on the side. Right?
Well, there's mass, and there's I don't know about you, but when you're at the game, you hear a lot more.
Of course,
well, I heard more f-bombs and whatnot that you would normally hear during the course of it because they're drowned out by the crowd. But I mean, they're piping in noise, but you can still, you can still hear that chirping out there on the field.
Gotcha. Okay, but
more than usual.
But as a fan watching it, it was a lot easier to watch than the other sports that just didn't have that same element. You know what I mean? Did you feel like that, Russell, watching it?
Well, I think that the announcers do a good job of like not emphasizing the fact that, you know, there's nobody in the stadium or anything like that. And, you know, to be really God's honest with you, I don't listen to that much football commentary. You know, the truth is when football is going on, I'm usually checking both of my stat teams, both of my fantasy football teams. So I'm kind of like checking that out at the same time that the game is on, you know, at that moment.
Now,
so
what did you do before fantasy football? There was nothing.
I've been playing fantasy football since 2003. You're asking me to go back 17 years to think about what football was like for me 17 years ago.
Fantasy football has changed over the last 17 years, hasn't it?
Not, you know what? We're still playing with the same rules. We still have the same rule set for our teams, for our fantasy team. This one was a friend of mine who's a computer engineer out in the East Coast, and he made his own league, his own rules, his own website. It's all built in, and it's something that they used to do it by mail correspondence before the internet was big. They've been doing it since like the early 90s.
Oh wow.
And
well, Vern, how are your saltless nuts doing?
The saltless nuts are
I love that name.
Nuts are okay. Saltless nuts went we only lost 3 games. Now we're playing in a different league. It's not really a fantasy league. Saltless nuts we only lost 3 games out of the weekend. Saltless nuts are good. Not much taste to us, but because we're saltless.
That's fans you don't know out there.
For a lot of people, fantasy football is more important than the actual games themselves. Yeah. You know, I mean, last night I was watching the stupid Titans-Broncos game because I was playing against Steven Gostkowski, and if he had hit any of those 3 field goals that he choked on, I would have lost. I won 31-30 this week. So it was all because he kept missing those field goals that I won. But I was sitting there like this when he was missing a 42, a 47, and a 44
and you had
field goal.
And you had no money bet on it, right?
No, but it's a lot of bragging rights because we've been in it since 2003. So, you know, it means, plus you get this really cool, like a statue if you win the Super Bowl at the end and you get your name engraved on it.
Oh, that's good.
So, yeah.
Well, talking about that Titans-Broncos game, what's wrong with Fangio, the coach of the Broncos? Does he think the timeouts roll over just like phone minutes?
I didn't understand what he was doing with that was terrible clock management.
Clock management, yeah.
Just he could have saved himself like another minute, or what he could have done is just let the Titans run in for a touchdown.
Yeah,
you know, for the most part, because he was going to need a touchdown anyway when they kicked the field goal.
So how often though does an assistant coach, you know, or an offensive line coach or whatever, be able to kind of go, hey coach, you really need to call a timeout now?
He could call one himself. Assistant coaches can call timeouts.
But you know, I don't know how many of them.
Players can call timeouts.
Well, that's a little bit more risky from the standpoint of, you know, the coach kind of going, what are you doing? You know,
And then he's saying,
Right.
giving us a chance to possibly win the game. I mean, they had the ball at the 45-yard line. They could, if they had maybe 30 more seconds, they could have really actually, pulled off about 3 or 4 more plays. Maybe kicked in that, a distant field goal. It was perfect kicking conditions. Their field goal kicker is pretty strong. That was abhorrent clock management. I don't understand it.
Hey guys, want to change subject for just a quick minute here, but it is still in football. So I was just reading that United Airlines is being sued due to discrimination on NFL flights and other sports charter flights because apparently the attendants have to be pretty blonde, blue-eyed, young, etc. Have you heard that?
Who said
Wow.
that? Who went on the record and said that? Where'd that quote come from?
There's a lawsuit by some flight attendants who are being discriminated against for not being, young enough, blonde enough, pretty enough, etc.
I got to start flying again.
There's a preferred attendance list.
I got to start
No,
flying again.
but are the flight attendants suing the airline, or are the
Yes.
flight attendants suing certain football teams that
No,
charter
no,
the plane?
I believe it's United Airlines is actually being sued because it sounded like the NFL was kind of say hint hint, wink wink, nod nod. We have a preferred list of attendants to come on our flight to handle the players, coaches, and all that kind of stuff. And when you look at who they choose, it happens to be the young, pretty, blonde, blue-eyed flight attendants.
You'd think in
Really?
this day of,
I can't wait to see that go to litigation.
and you'd think in this day of Me Too stuff, you'd want the Nurse Goldbricker instead types to be the flight attendants. And in today's Me Too society, you'd want the ugliest possible flight attendants you could get.
Yeah, that's right.
Sure there
So
are
then
no.
the pretty ones get to sue for not being on the preferred list, right? Yeah, and
Exactly.
some Chicago broadcaster, I guess he has a radio show, and he made some kind of misogynistic comment about Maria, is that her name, for Monday Night Football?
Michelle DeFoya? Michelle DeFoya?
Is it Michelle?
That's Sunday night.
I don't know.
Football.
I'm still
No,
getting
yeah.
over the Kansas City broadcaster who got kicked out for his gay slur.
Yeah, no. This happened to Monday night. She's a pretty black woman, but what she was wearing, it looked kind of normal. But he made some comment about
Lisa Salters?
No. It was it was Maria somebody, and it was just it
Maria
really it was
Taylor?
kind of stupid. It's like, well, this guy's making this stupid comment, and it's like, you know what? I mean, she's just doing her job, and it's not like she's wearing a bikini or anything. She looked normal. But I'd have to go back to I'd have to go back to it. But it was it was right on Yahoo. I like to get a lot of things from Yahoo because they just give you a quick little.
Here's my question to you guys. Do you think the way that the NFL teams perform, since it was pretty good and it wasn't a complete, crap fest, do you think this spells the end of preseason football?
Maria Taylor. That's who you're
That's
talking
her,
about.
Maria Taylor. Yeah.
Yeah, she works for ESPN. She's good and she works hard. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, why make any stupid comments? I mean, she's just doing her job, and she's not completely out of the realm of. I mean, not gonna let her on TV with a bikini on or something like that. She didn't look like a porn star. She just looked like a professional woman doing her job. But back to your question about preseason, I think I don't think they'll get rid of it. They might lower it to 1 or 2 games just to kind of get a feel for it.
It's obviously you don't need it though to have decent football on the field.
True. So they say it's a little different. Obviously, you're not going full speed hitting your own teammates when you're in preseason.
Yeah, so many guys get hurt.
Practice is what I meant.
But so many guys get hurt in those preseason games. The only mantra of the preseason is don't get hurt. Nobody cares if you win or lose. You just got to not get hurt.
It's like the Pro Bowl. Same thing,
Worse because you have 4 of them. You don't have 4 Pro Bowls.
Yeah, that's true.
And people can opt out of the Pro Bowl, and they do, but you can't opt out of preseason.
Yeah. Vern, what do you think about preseason?
I feel bad for the undrafted players, the players who are drafted, 6th, 7th round that need those games, need to get themselves on tape so they can kind of showcase their talents, not just to make that team, but to make other teams, because everybody's privy to those to all the video. So you only have those practices to show so much what you can do, and most or all of those practices aren't tackle to the ground type practices. So you really can't go all out. You can't even touch the quarterback. So I feel sorry for that guy. That's the only thing I feel bad about in the preseason games. None of the veterans want to play any preseason games, and even if they did, they're not playing any more than a quarter anyway. So that's kind of how I feel about preseason.
Yeah,
I think it's maybe necessary for a scrimmage or two, but 4 of them, forget it.
Yeah, gotcha. Okay, of course, if fans in the stands will kind of determine the money that comes in from those games. But
what
okay.
fans?
Yeah, well, when we eventually.
There's only 3 stadiums had fans.
Yeah, good point. Okay, here's our third trivia question. Now, you guys, I gave you a couple of softball questions, the first 2. This one's a
They're
little
about football. Now you're going to ask us a question about softball.
No, we're still talking football here. Who was the first defensive lineman to total 20 sacks in a season?
I think I know.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, then you can email edward@sportsecon101.com the answer to this question. Who was the first defensive lineman to total 20 sacks in a season?
He's a Hall of Famer, right?
I don't know.
Oh.
I don't know. Okay, it's not like he's a shoe-in one. So.
Oh, okay. Then that might
change it on you there. Okay. Yeah. I honestly, if I had to say yes or no, I'm going to guess he's probably not. But that's just my guess. All right. Stay with us. Sports Econ 101. We'll be right back with some closing comments. Welcome back to Sports Econ 101. Last time for today, I'm Edward Brown, your host, along with Vern Glenn and Russell Jackman. Third trivia question. Who was the first defensive lineman to total 20 sacks in a season? Who were you thinking, Russell?
I was thinking Dick Butkus.
He wasn't a defensive lineman.
He wasn't a
defensive
lineman.
He was a middle linebacker. So he wouldn't have been defensive lineman, 20 sacks. Gosh.
I'll give you a hint by giving you the name of the line, because it wasn't the Hogs, which would have been Washington. They were the New York Sack Exchange. You remember that?
Mark Gastineau?
Yes, Mark Gastineau.
Oh, wow. I remember him from his boxing.
Yeah.
His attempt at boxing.
He was in town toward the end of his career, and we actually had him on Sports Final at Cron one night, believe it or not.
Wow.
1984 Jets. He was
making his transition from football to wrestling, Mr. Jackman.
Wrestling, yeah.
And he was in town and
No, he was boxing. He did boxing.
Oh, I'm sorry, boxing. Yeah.
And he got beaten to heck. I remember watching that.
But who beat him? I can't remember who beat him. We'll think about that one. Okay. Here we're going to cut out. Here's our thoughts for the day. Someone helping you is not always your friend, and someone opposing you is not always your enemy. Interesting. Yeah. And be strong enough to stand alone, smart enough to know when you need help, and brave enough to ask for it. Rather than give you funny ones, we gave you very insightful ones.
How about do unto others and then split?
Before you criticize someone, walk a mile in their shoes. That way, when you run away, you've got their shoes.
And don't smell them.
Yeah,
right?
Very good.
Okay.
And a decent pair of shoes.
All right. Tune in next week to Sports Econ 101. We're going to be discussing sports topics from a business perspective and asking more sports trivia questions. Thanks for listening. On behalf of our team, I'm your host, Edward Brown. We'll see you next week.
Adios, America.
Good night, America.